You have no right to be in my kitchen. This is my flat, and I pay rent here. Touch my pot one more time and see what happens. I will pour this pepper soup on your head. God forbid. Ungrateful woman. Don't talk to me about gratitude. Get out of my kitchen.
Now.
Now, this is Mama Tunde. Ground floor, flat 1, left side. She had been in that compound on Adiagun Street for 9 years. 9 years of knowing every crack in the walls, every sound the water pump made before it gave up, every dog that barked at 3 a.m. on this particular street in Surulere. She was the kind of woman who knew her neighbor's business before they knew it themselves, not because she was nosy, but because she was simply always there, always present, always watching. She swept in front of her door every morning at exactly 6 a.m. She kept a small kitchen garden in 2 old paint buckets beside her window, tomatoes and scent leaf, and she talked to those plants with the kind of affection she reserved for very few human beings. She was 53 years old, a retired teacher who now sold small chops and puff-puff from a cooler she carried to events around the estate on weekends. She had one son, Tunde, who was in his final year at the Polytechnic and who called every Sunday without fail. She had a way of folding her arms across her chest when she was displeased that communicated more than any sentence she could have put together. Her neighbors understood that posture. They respected it. Some of them feared it, respectfully. Upstairs, flat 2, right side, lived Adiz. She had arrived 8 months ago in a Sienna van with her sister and 2 young men she called cousins, carrying so many things that it told a story on its own. It was the story of someone who had recently ended a marriage and was beginning again somewhere new. She was 38, a pharmacist by training who had pivoted fully into online business. She sold skincare products, supplements, waist trainers, and hair vitamins through her WhatsApp catalog and her Instagram shop, and she was very good at it. She was sharp and funny online, the kind of woman whose captions made people laugh and immediately click buy. She wore nice wigs and nice clothes and smelled consistently of a fragrance that was both expensive and slightly aggressive. She had a daughter, Kayamika, who was 6 years old and spent weekdays with Adiz's mother in Festac while Adiz ran her business and rebuilt her life. She was not unkind. She was not deliberately difficult. She was simply a woman running very fast and not always looking where she was going. The issue began with the kitchen. In that compound, there was a shared back kitchen on the ground floor. Old, cracked tile floor, a window that had never properly closed since the landlord promised to fix it in 2019. 2 burners, 1 small countertop, a shelf where each tenant kept their pots and oil and seasoning. There was an unspoken arrangement. Mama Tunde cooked in the evenings. The quiet accountant in flat 3, Mr. Salo, cooked briefly on weekend mornings. Adiz was supposed to cook in the afternoons. Nobody wrote this down. Nobody signed anything. It was simply understood, the way many important things in Lagos compounds are understood, through repetition and proximity and the quiet social pressure of people who share walls. Adiz was not good at afternoons. Her afternoons were swallowed whole. Orders coming in, customer complaints, supplier messages, restock confirmations. By the time she surfaced from the fog of running her business and remembered that she needed to cook, it was always evening. Sometimes 7 p.m. Sometimes 7:30. And that was precisely when Mama Tunde had her pot on the fire. The first time, Mama Tunde said nothing. She moved her pot to 1 burner and made space. Adiz thanked her, cooked quickly, and left. The second time, Mama Tunde made a sound under her breath, barely audible. The third time she said, in a very measured tone, that perhaps Adiz might want to try coming earlier because evenings were her time. Adiz said of course, absolutely, no problem at all. Then she came at 7 the next evening. And the one after that. And the one after that. By the 5th week, Mama Tunde had said something direct. Not unkind, not shouting, but direct in the way that a woman who has been a teacher for 22 years is direct. She told Adiz clearly and plainly that they needed to respect each other's time and that evenings belonged to her. Adiz said she understood completely and that she would adjust. She sounded like she meant it. She did not adjust. The thing was, Adiz did not think of herself as causing a problem. In her mind, she was just cooking. There was a shared kitchen with 2 burners, Only one was in use when she arrived, and no official document said she could not be there. In her mind, Mama Tunde was slightly rigid, slightly territorial, the way older women sometimes were, and she could manage around it. She said as much to her friend Nkechi during a voice note one night. Nkechi, this woman downstairs, she acts like she has a deed of ownership to the back kitchen. I just entered to boil my yam. Is that a crime? Is boiling yam a criminal offense in Lagos now? And she gave me this look, Nkechi, like I had insulted her ancestors. She finished the note with a laugh and sent it. Nkechi replied with a laughing emoji and said these compound women are always like this, ignore her. Adiz decided to document it. Not to be malicious, she told herself. Just to share. Her followers liked real-life content. She had 41,000 followers on Instagram, and her story views consistently reached 15,000. She started putting up short stories about compound life. She never used the woman's name. She called her ground floor auntie. She described the folded arms, the measured voice, the way the kitchen temperature dropped 10 degrees whenever ground floor auntie was in it. Her followers were delighted. A poll she ran, "Am I wrong for wanting to use the shared kitchen?" got 89% saying no, you are not wrong. A short video she took of the kitchen, panning across the cracked tiles and the single bare bulb with the caption "Welcome to my cooking experience," got 6,000 views in an evening. Mama Tunde knew none of this for 3 months. She had a Facebook account she had created in 2017 and not logged into since 2019. She had WhatsApp. That was the full extent of her internet life. Her world was her cooler of small chops, her Sunday calls with Tunde, her tomato plants, and her 9 years of earned peace on Adiagun Street. What brought it to her was a younger woman on her street, her neighbor's daughter Bimp, who stopped her one Saturday morning and said, "Mama Tunde, are you the ground floor auntie?" Mama Tunde stopped walking. "Ground floor who?" Bimp showed her the phone. She scrolled through the stories, the polls, the kitchen video. She read some comments out loud. This woman sounds so entitled. Ground floor auntie needs to go and rest. Why is she policing a shared kitchen? Compound bullies are everywhere in Lagos. Mama Tunde took the phone from Bimp. She read the words slowly. She handed it back and said, quietly, "Thank you, Bimp." Then she continued to the market. She moved through the stalls with the mechanical efficiency of a woman whose hands knew this work so well her mind could be somewhere else entirely. And her mind was elsewhere. She was counting. 3 months. 3 months this girl had been posting about her. To 41,000 people. The entitled woman. The compound bully. She, who had never bullied anyone in her life. She, who had fed half the children on this street at one point or another. She, who swept the compound entrance even on mornings she was not required to because she simply could not walk past an untidy thing. She sat with it for 2 days. She did not knock on Adiz's door. She did not make a scene. She cooked in the evenings as she always did and greeted Adiz when she saw her with the same measured politeness. She was not a woman who acted before she thought. She had 22 years of managing classrooms full of restless children. She understood that patience, properly applied, was a weapon. On the 3rd day she called Tunde. She told him everything. Tunde was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Mama, I think it is time to make that kitchen fully yours." Not aggressively, not rudely, just quietly and completely. She said, "Explain yourself," and he did. By the time he was done, she had her slow smile on. The one her students used to fear. The one that meant she had understood completely and was already 3 steps ahead. That week, Mama Tunde began arriving at the shared kitchen at 5:30 each evening. Not 6 as before. 5:30, exact. She spread herself across both burners. She brought a small stool from her flat and sat reading her devotional while she cooked. She was not blocking anyone intentionally. She was simply cooking with the thoroughness she always applied to everything. When done, she scrubbed everything down and left the kitchen spotless. She was finished by 7:30. But Adiz, who arrived at 7 or 7:15 as was her habit, now arrived to a clean and empty kitchen with nobody in it. No confrontation. No folded arms. Just space. This should have been a relief. It was not, because Mama Tunde had also quietly stopped other things. Things Adiz had not even known were being done. Mama Tunde had been the one who coordinated with the water tanker driver. She had been the one who kept the caretaker's number and called when the generator needed fuel or the gate latch broke. She had been the one who took in parcels for neighbors who were out and kept them safe. She simply withdrew from all of it. Quietly. Without announcement. She withdrew. Within 2 weeks, the compound felt something missing. The water became inconsistent. A parcel arrived for Adiz and sat outside her door in the afternoon sun. The generator ran out of fuel on a Tuesday, and the caretaker didn't know until Thursday. The gate latch came loose and swung open in the wind for 3 days before Mr. Salo fixed it himself with wire and a prayer. Adiz noticed everything but could not name the cause.
She assumed it was just compound life.
Lagos entropy. She continued her Instagram stories. Ground Floor Auntie has been very quiet lately, she told her followers. I think she has finally decided to behave.
Crown emoji.
Her followers cheered. Then came the incident with the pepper soup. Adiz arrived home at 9:31 Friday night after a client event, hungry in a way that was almost angry. She went straight to the kitchen to heat up stew she had made the previous day. She opened the shared fridge. There, right at the front where her bowl usually sat, was a massive pot of Mama Tunde's pepper soup. Her bowl had been moved to the back. Behind the pepper soup, behind a bag of smoked fish, behind a container of garden eggs. Adiz stood in front of that open fridge for a long moment. Then she moved the pepper soup pot to make room. Firmly, possibly too firmly. The lid shifted, and some soup sloshed inside. She retrieved her stew, shut the fridge, and turned back to the burner. She did not hear the door. She did not hear the footsteps. She simply became aware, suddenly, of a presence in the kitchen doorway. Mama Tunde, in her wrapper and house slippers, arms folded, eyes on the fridge. Adiz, that is my pepper soup. Did you just move my pot? I was just getting my food. It was blocking my bowl. It was blocking your bowl, or it was simply in the fridge we share. Nobody is disputing I can use the fridge. I am asking if you moved my pot. I barely touched it. Barely touched. Mama Tunde looked at her for a long moment. I prepared that soup for a naming ceremony tomorrow morning. Did you handle it carelessly? Adiz felt something rise in her. You don't share this kitchen respectfully yourself, she said before she could stop herself. You take both burners for hours every evening so nobody else can cook. Mama Tunde's eyebrows rose slowly.
Oh, so that is what you think of me? Yes.
That is the truth. Say the truth. And Mama Tunde's hand shot out and moved Adiz's pot off the burner. You will not cook in this kitchen tonight. Adiz put the pot back. She will cook. Mama Tunde moved it again. Touch my pot one more time and see what happens. I will pour this pepper soup on your head. God forbid. Ungrateful woman. Don't talk to me about gratitude. Get out of my kitchen.
Now.
Adiz went upstairs, hands trembling slightly with the adrenaline of a fight that had escalated faster than she expected. She sat on her bed. Then she opened Instagram and went live. She told the whole story. The pepper soup, the pot, the shouting. She was animated, compelling. Her followers responded in real time, numbers climbing, comments flying. That's assault. Call the police. She sounds unstable. Move out, bestie. She felt herself steadying as she talked. She felt seen. She did not notice, or did not want to notice, the few comments asking different questions. But why were you moving her pot in the first place? This feels one-sided. Has she actually harmed you? Though she scrolled past without reading. The live stream was clipped and shared, as these things are in Lagos. It reached eventually a woman named Chisholm who lived 3 streets away and who had sat in Mama Tunde's class at government secondary school in 2001. Chisholm recognized the description immediately. She called Mama Tunde. She read some comments over the phone. Unstable. Unhinged. Dangerous neighbor. Mama Tunde thanked Chisholm. She put the phone down. She looked at her pepper soup still sitting in the fridge, undamaged and fragrant. She sat in her kitchen doing nothing for a while. She was not a woman who cried easily. She had not cried the day the school gave her a retirement envelope that was smaller than it should have been after 22 years. But her face held, for that hour, an expression her son would have recognized. The next morning she went to the naming ceremony. She served her pepper soup. People praised it and said she had not lost her touch. She gave extra portions and wrapped some for the new mother. She came home in the afternoon and sat with her tomato plants and thought for a long time. Then she called Tunde again.
Tunde, she said.
This girl has been posting me for 4 months. She has been calling me unhinged and unstable to thousands of strangers. And now people in this neighborhood know. Tunde was quiet. Then he said, Mama, I think it is time to speak for yourself. She said, I do not have Instagram. He said, you have a phone. You have a story. And Mama, you have the pepper soup. She did not immediately understand the pepper soup part. He explained. By the time he was done, she had her slow smile on. That Sunday after church, she went to Bimp and said, Bimp, help me post something. Bimp, who had grown up watching Mama Tunde chase boys off the street for kicking balls near her tomato plants, sat up very straight and said, Yes, Ma. Immediately. They set up in Mama Tunde's living room. Tidy, smelling of camphor, and the faint warm vanilla of a woman who baked on Sundays. Bimp propped her phone against a stack of textbooks. Mama Tunde sat in her good chair, the wooden-armed one, in her church blouse, hair covered with a neat scarf. She looked at the camera without fidgeting. She had stood in front of classrooms for decades. She knew how to hold a room. Good afternoon, she said. My name is Mrs. Oluwabunmi Adeyemi. Some of you know me as Floor Auntie. I am here to say something, and I will say it only once. She spoke. She spoke about the 9 years of building a life in that compound, about the shared kitchen, clearly and without bitterness, just the facts laid out with the precision of a woman who had spent her career teaching people to think clearly, about what it meant to be called a bully and unstable by strangers online, about Adiz, without cruelty. She said, that young woman is not evil. She is simply living in a way that treats other people as scenery. And that is a lesson she still needs to learn. Then she reached beside her and lifted the pot. The pepper soup pot. She set it on the table in front of her. She said, This is the pepper soup that caused a live stream last week. I ground my own crayfish. I selected the catfish myself from the market. I was making it for a woman in this neighborhood who just had her first son after 7 years of waiting. That is what was in that fridge. That is what was moved, without care. She looked at the camera. She said, I have nothing more to add. Bimp, end it. Bimp created an account and posted it immediately. She tagged Adiz's handle. The caption read, The real story. Floor Auntie speaks. It moved the way things move when they are true. Not with manufactured drama, but with the weight of something real. People watched it and went quiet before they commented. The tone was different this time. She sounds like my mother. She sounds like every woman who built something quietly and was never thanked. I feel ashamed that I laughed at those earlier posts. That detail about the woman who waited 7 years. I am not okay. Adiz sat in her room and watched it 3 times. The 3rd time she was not really watching anymore. Just staring. Her followers were shifting. Some remained loyal in the way online loyalty works, which is more about team membership than truth. But others were leaving. Some said I followed you for skincare, and now I'm in the middle of something I don't understand. Some said nothing at all. They simply unfollowed. She knocked on Mama Tunde's door a week later on a Wednesday evening. She held a small container with a bottle of malt drink and a meat pie from the bakery 2 streets away, the kind Mama Tunde bought herself on Saturdays. Adiz had noticed this small thing, somewhere along the months, and she had held on to it. Mama Tunde opened the door and looked at the container. Then at Adiz. Adiz said, I want to apologize.
Properly.
Not on Instagram. Not for my followers.
To you.
Because I was wrong and I knew it. And I kept going anyway, and I am sorry. Mama Tunde studied her face for a moment. Then she stepped back from the doorway. Come inside. They sat in the wooden-armed chair room that smelled of camphor and vanilla. Adiz said everything. About the kitchen. About the posts and the comments she had encouraged. About how deep inside her own overwhelmed she had been. The divorce, the rebuilding, the business, and how she had stopped seeing the people around her as people. Mama Tunde listened without interrupting. When Adiz finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she stood and went to a shelf and came back with a piece of card, slightly yellowed, clearly handled many times. She held it out. It read, "A community does not run itself. It is run by the people who bother to show up." Adiz read it twice. "Did you write that?" Mama Tunde said, "I borrowed it from a woman wiser than me. But I have kept it 30 years because it has never stopped being true." She looked at Adiz. "You are building something. I can see that. Your business is real. Your life is real. But when you reduce the people around you to characters in your content, you are not building. You are borrowing. And borrowed things must always be returned." Adiz went upstairs and opened Instagram. She sat in front of her camera without a filter, without her ring light adjusted for maximum effect. Just the natural overhead light of her flat. She said, "I owe someone an apology and I already gave it in person. But I also owe everyone who watched my content and made judgments based on a story I was telling incompletely. Ground Floor Auntie is not what I made her seem. She's been quietly holding this compound together for 9 years, and I treated her like background noise in my own story. That was wrong. I am sorry." She posted it and put her phone down and went to make tea. Mama Tunde's account, the one Bimp had created, had 52,000 followers by the following Saturday. Then one Sunday Mama Tunde sat down with Bimp and said, "I want to show people how to make the pepper soup the proper way." Bimp nearly fell off her chair. They filmed it in the shared kitchen. Natural light. Mama Tunde in her wrapper and kitchen slippers. She talked through every step the way she used to walk students through mathematics, patiently, precisely, with the occasional dry remark that made Bimp laugh and restart the recording. She said, "The secret to this soup is that there is no shortcut. People are always looking for shortcuts. This soup does not allow them. You sit with it. You tend it. Like most good things." It got 200,000 views in 4 days. The comments were helplessly charmed. "Where has this woman been all my life? She is my grandmother. She is everybody's grandmother. Please let this woman have a cooking show. Mama Tunde, please tell us more." She began posting twice a week. Cooking videos mostly, but sometimes she would sit in her wooden armchair and talk about things. Living alone after your children grow up. Building a life on a civil servant salary. The small chops business. People ordered from her. She talked about her tomatoes, and someone sent her a proper self-watering pot. She did not revisit the conflict. She simply let people see her fully, and people responded to being allowed to see something real. Adiz watched all of it. She noticed that her own cooking times had quietly shifted to the afternoons. She noticed the compound felt held together again. The water came. Parcels were kept safe. The gate latch was properly repaired. One evening she made too much jollof rice and brought a bowl to Mama Tunde's door without speech or ceremony. Mama Tunde took it and said it smelled good. That was enough. And one Saturday Adiz was at the market and she sent a message to Mama Tunde. She had seen fresh catfish and wanted to know if she should pick some up. Mama Tunde replied in 3 seconds. "Yes. Get 2 medium ones. Tell them to clean it for you, they know how. And bring me the bill." Adiz did. Mama Tunde paid her back in exact change. When Adiz got home that evening she could smell the pepper soup from the staircase, and it was the specific smell of a compound that is being properly held by someone who knows what she is doing. Moral lesson: never use someone else's life as entertainment without their permission. The people around you who quietly keep things running are not background characters. They are the reason things work at all. And before you make someone else's struggle your content, ask yourself what you would lose if they simply stopped showing up. Thank you for watching and listening at Story Haven TV. Please like, comment, share, and follow for more stories.